Hello and welcome to Digital Thursday. My name is Sarah Roche. I'm a technology coach up in program. Today we are going to be focusing on digital assessment tools, specifically Kahoot and Nearpod, as well as Office 365, and a little bit of an intro to D2L. We may have some time to get into the notebook and Office 365, but we'll see how much time we have and if you have any questions along the way and what that looks like. Remember that you can have the YouTube channel open, so here you should be watching me. Also have another screen open so that if you do have questions that you can talk to us and be able to collaborate. And that document link that was provided, you can start there and press on the conversation piece and someone in there will be able to answer your questions along the way. I'm going to give you a moment to settle in and I'm going to flip over screens and start the presentation. All right, so as I said, you can connect and collaborate with us via the document link, but if you feel more comfortable with using Twitter or Yammer, you can go on to the social media site there. Just make sure to use the hashtag DPChats so that we're able to locate your questions and answer you back. Do not worry about taking notes because you may go back and review this video on our YouTube channel, which is DPCDSB Chats. So just sit back and ask your questions, watch the video, watch what we're doing, and we'll be able to, you can go back later and guide yourself through it. Today, our main purpose is looking at the idea of assessment and how we can improve student learning. We're looking at assessment as a process of gathering information that's able to accurately reflect how well a student is achieving the expectations. When we're using types of assessment, we're really focusing today on that idea of assessment for learning and as learning. So we're finding ways to guide our students' instruction to improve it and provide some descriptive feedback with what they're doing in ways that they can improve and reach their full potential. However, we're also wanting students to be able to monitor their own progress and set goals with the tools that we're using. So what are we doing in order to provide students with the opportunity to monitor their own learning and to set these goals, and how do we lead them along the way? So we're going to use some tools of how to help students improve and reach their full potential before that product is handed in and given. One of the three parts that we want you to think about as we're going through the tools is the idea of the triangulation of assessment. Are you able to observe what they're doing? Are you able to have conversations with the students? Are students able to have conversations with themselves and assess what's going on? Are they able to see what others are thinking and understand what goals are supposed to meet? And finally, that idea of products. Have you provided enough formative feedback and instruction that have led them to the ability to feel that they have reached their full potential and they can show you what they understand on the topic and the content? So the first tool we're going to start with today, and I'm going to take you through what it looks like when you go into the platform, but I want you to understand what it is first. So Nearpod is a web-based tool as well as an iPad app. So they are on our school iPads, but also the students can use them within their own devices. Teachers are able to create their own multimedia presentations with interactive activities. So you're able to add up the slides, possibly PowerPoints you already have designs. You can upload them into there, videos, images, PDF files, and within this content you can embed multiple choice quizzes, slideshows, polls, drawits. So Drawits are blank slides where students can add a variation of information, or it could be something that's an image added in. I'll show you what that looks like in a minute, but as well as open-ended questions. So it adds that idea, it provides the ability for you to have some immediate feedback and students themselves to have immediate feedback on their learning. The teachers launch the presentation and they're able to monitor the progress throughout. Teachers can interact with students as they move through the presentation and can view the responses in real time. In this sense, they're able to either stop and have a discussion with the class about what they're thinking, and students themselves take ownership of their learning without worrying what others are thinking, because their names are out there, but they're able actually to all participate. Today we're going to be examining Nearpod. And Nearpod is a web-based tool and also an app within our iPads in the schools that combines presentation, collaboration, and real-time assessment into one place. The tool creates a wireless connection between the teacher and all the students' devices and allows them to share work between one another and share work from teacher to students. Teachers can create a lesson and manage the content on the students' devices, and responses by the students can be sent to the teacher during the lesson, so therefore providing some real-time feedback in between the teacher and the student. This tool can be used in various situations and with all learners. It's very versatile and generally is a really great tool when creating formative assessment. On my page here, you see two screens. One screen is the presenter screen, and one is the session in which the student's going to sign in. And we're going to see what both look like in a moment. But I'm going to quickly just review what it looks like within the main screen after you create an account. In the My Library, this is where they store the presentations that you've already created or downloaded. In the Explore section, you will find already created Nearpods from other people. Some are free and some are paid for, so be careful when you're looking around and exploring. The join is joining the session, so you'll see that over here. If you go in and you already have an account and you're joining someone else's presentation, you can go right in there. Create is where you design your Nearpods. And reports is a real robust feature in which you're able to collect all of the information from the activities and their answers, and then go back and assess what they were saying and use it for grading or use it for leading your next lesson. If we go into Create, you see that it's asking you to add slides. And it's very comparable to that idea of how we used to design our PowerPoint or keynotes. So here, you're developing slides, but the one great thing about this is that it's now enhanced with being able to discuss and build understanding with your students with activities. So they can now be able to provide feedback, not just the content that they're playing with. They can tell you now what they think about it. So if we go into add a slide, two features that are free within the Nearpod account are add content and add activity. Here is where you're going to build their knowledge or lead them along the way, facilitate their learning, whether it be the individual or the group activity. In the slides, you can add your pictures, your PowerPoints, your PDFs, and things that are going to lead their learning along that way, whatever you may be doing. You can add video to guide it, whether it be a screencast of a lesson you've done or maybe a video of an experiment they're examining. You can embed audio as well as slideshows. And I find that the slideshow, if people already have pre-designed PowerPoints that they want to use, they put the slides into there and they upload it and they work around from that. So that's kind of a quick method of inputting your PowerPoints and putting it in there. The add activity is really what enhances that idea of the presentation, because this is where you're going to get your assessment from. In here, you have the open-ended question, the poll, so your multiple choice, your quiz, and this is something that you can add as many questions in, but they are only multiple choice, and the students can self-pace themselves within this, whether you use it at the beginning of a lesson to see what their understanding is, or possibly at the end as some sort of exit ticket to see how well they were able to understand what was happening throughout the lesson. The draw feature is one of my favorites. So here they're able to either fill in diagrams or be able to explain a certain thought or to design something for you. It all depends on the subject in which you're teaching for the purpose at which they draw. But it's one of those things that really enhances that idea that in the moment you're able to see exactly what they're thinking because they're either able to type it or draw it to you. And I'm going to show you that feature. So if we move back out of this, I'm going to go into my library. And in here, you see that you have some presentations stored. When you want to, and after you've published your Nearpod, if you want to share it with your students, you're going to go into a live session. So I'm going to click on that here. And it's going to give me a pin for the students to fill in. So I'm just going to pretend I'm a student over here so you can see both windows and what they look like. And I'm going to fill in my pin. And it's not case sensitive, so they just have to fill in the letters, however it may be. It's going to ask for a name or a nickname. If you're using it for assessment purposes, you may want to know your student's first name and possibly last initial if you have multiple students having the same name, and mine's very common. Send that along, let the teacher know that I'm in. And over here, once the teacher knows they're in, that most of the students are in, they can X this out. And I can see that I have one student in. And the pin is up here if I need to give it out to a student at the time. They can come in at any time to where the teacher is in the presentation. So if a student comes in late, they can follow in and whatever point the teacher is at with the slides. You see here with the teacher view that I move back and forth within it. So this is what's called pushing out the slides. So I can see that I have my content, and as I'm going through my content, I'm pushing it out. So I'm just pushing the arrows, I'm building up activities. And here we see that we're asking for a question. So in here, right, they'd have an answer, they'd send it along to you, and then they'd wait for the teacher to join in. So you can see that it takes a few minutes. The teacher then has the answer. All of the students would be underneath here. If I chose as well, what they were saying, that if you have real-time feedback and you're asking a question that you want to discuss and figure out, you can share the idea out to the all of the devices. So once I shared this would go out to every single device. We would talk about what they were thinking, and I could unshare it and then move on. As you can see, we have, I'm just going to turn off the volume here. I'm not sure if it's on. There we go. You can hear it. So it's having it, the video is playing there. So it's playing, it's moving through. Now, the only thing about this is, as you can see, it's not always going to go at the same pace. So if they have earbuds or something, or turn their volume down, because if there's a lot of words, then every single device is going to be playing this video. So remember that. We move through it and we have that idea. So you see that I have the answers coming in, whatever I think it may be. I send it in, and the results are then going to go to the teacher. The one great thing about the multiple choice is if it's more than one, it'll be split to how many answers. So if, you know, a lot did A and a lot did B, or there was no answer, it would show me that, and then I could share this chart out to say, this was the number of answers, this is what we thought. So you could then use that again to guide that idea, the immediate feedback. This is what I'm thinking, this is what the class is thinking, and guiding their learning along the way. And you can see it looks different. I'm going to know for every student and what the answer is. So immediately, the teacher's going to get an understanding of where the class is at just by looking at the answers that are coming in. Sometimes that's not as easy when you're just sitting with a class. Not everybody's going to answer or feel comfortable answering. Now all of a sudden, every student's going to have a voice and an idea. As we move through this, I just want to show you a few features that we talked about. So this is then the drawing. So, oops, not that one. right back here, send them back. So I can see that I'm awaiting a drawing. So as a teacher, I would have all of these boxes here of all my students, and I'm waiting for what they're doing. So I can see that it's asking me to circle something. It wants to know which one has the most gravitational pull. I can go in and I can select, and then I can draw within it and send it. But if it's something different, we know that I can write it in. So if we just get this out of here, should be a little bit bigger. So they're moving along. There we go. You can see that I already typed it in. I just couldn't see it. So, oops. So they're filling, and they should know a little bit of how to move this around. I mean, they're used to devices. So, but it's really giving you that idea that you can add in pictures, you can browse your files. If they want to add in something that they've done, just say that they're creating something. Maybe they're building something within, there you go. So they're on, so they can take a picture of what they're doing in their group at the time, or they can add a picture of something that they've researched and they want to throw in. So really with this draw it function, it's really unlimited as to what you're doing. You could just have an overall group task that they're working on, and then they're building their answer within here and then sending it off to you. So it doesn't even have to be something that's really pre-designed. But when they send it off, you see it coming in, so they're going to be able to see what's happening. And as well, you can also then share that. So, and that does go to every single device, what it looks like. You can talk about it. Again, at no point do you see any of the students' names anywhere on here. So it's just something that you're able to discuss without really putting any students on the spot. It really makes a difference when it comes to learning. Sometimes it just gives them, you know, a little more confidence to want to be able to share. Finally, the one feature, I'm just going to go to the end. Ooh. The one feature here is, this is the quiz that we were talking about. So we can see here that it says ready to take the quiz. When the student's ready to go in, they go in at their own time. And imagine that, you know, a bunch of students are in here and they're answering it. So I know that Sarah at the time has not answered, but I can see that she's on question 1. Remember that all the students are going to be on here. So we're going to press, just fill in something as we're going along, right? And I can see as Sarah is answering it, the answers that are coming in. Now the thing is that I can see whether or not she's correct or incorrect in what she's answering, right? So I can see, you can see right away that I know and have an understanding with this quiz what they're answering, their overall score, and I can either go right away, have that conversation with that student, or be able to build my lesson afterwards to the understanding of what they thought along the way. And it's really helpful because sometimes when you're in during a lesson and you're doing something, you don't know what every student's thinking. You really do have to have, you know, that overall assessment in some way, some sort of project or something they have to hand in. But here right away, you're able to see what their understanding is, what their thinking is, and you can see the whole class. So it grades it right there for you, which I love this for certain purposes as well. It's a little more close-ended, but it gives you, you know, some immediate feedback on their thinking and understanding of the topic. So one of the great things I think we did here was that idea that it does provide the immediate feedback and opportunities for reteaching. So Nearpod itself provides a session report. So here you can see that overall when you come in, you get a summary of the participation of the students that signed in. And if you have done a quiz function, it gives you a correct answer ratio. So right away within that point, you can see whether or not you have to go back and reteach it or whether or not your students are able to move on. With the pull and draw it answers, if you go and click under the words for pull or draw it, you'll be able to pull up all of the answers for every student under the poll, and you'll be able to also see a graph like you see the one for the quiz. For the draw it, every single one of the slides that they sent in will be saved and stored, and you'll be able to go back and review it after. which is really helpful in order to inform our own teaching and it provide the students the descriptive feedback they need in order to reach their potential and to effectively reach the goals that they're setting out to meet when it comes to your course. Students are able to, the teachers are able to provide the students with different presentations to further individualize instruction, which means within your time there, if you have groups at different levels, you can develop different Nearpods as well that can be going on simultaneously or maybe in some sort of rotation where the students are coming and going into the Nearpod and working through the content at their level or their whatever, if they're maybe even focusing to be a certain expert in one area of your course. You can develop it for many different reasons. When it comes to completing the polls, the results are immediate. So you can see here that I, as a teacher, can see immediately what the students are thinking, their answers. I can see in this graph that they're not all answering in the same way. So I might stop and have a discussion and say, wonder why they're thinking this, why I have, a quarter of my class thinking this, another quarter of my class having another idea of what's going on. And it can really help and provide the immediate feedback for the students in the time. When the students are working through the quiz function, and we saw that in the video, you can actually, in the moment in class, you can see where they're at, where they're going wrong, and you can help to clarify their understanding and review some of the errors that are going on. With the open-ended or draw-out questions, the teacher can review online and use to prepare follow-up lessons based on the areas of need. So here you can see that these are some student work samples from the teacher's view. And you can be able to, at the time in class, be able to launch a student screen and talk about the math. So if you have one particular student that you want to lead through what they're thinking and help the students, you're providing feedback right in the moment of the question that they were all working on. Or you can go back, as I said, and really help it prepare for your next lesson the following day. I think that we already kind of talked about that idea of quizzes, but this gives you the idea where it sees that when you look at this idea, you can see exactly where they're at, and you can actually see with the graph up above where your entire class is at. And that as well helps either if you're looking at the individual and you want to further their understanding, or if you're looking at the idea as a class and where to move to from there. It really helps you to evaluate your either individual or group responses. The next tool we're going to look at is assessment with Kahoot. And Kahoot is a student response system for creating and administering game-like quizzes or surveys. So questions along with the answer choices are projected onto a classroom screen while students submit responses using a personal device. Usually it's a mobile when they're in the secondary level. So the students' devices, they'll display color and symbol choices only, and the actual answer must be viewed on the classroom screen, and you're going to see that in an example in a minute. So, but the liveliness of the game or quiz really begins to escalate, and as updated ranks appear on the class, and the scoreboard of the top 5 comes up. So it really becomes a little bit of a competition at times, but it's that idea of playing the game, right? So as we mentioned, we know that Kahoot is a student response system. So it creates and administers game-like quizzes. And we can see here that we have that option of having the quiz, and we can have these ones timed. There's also, though, the choice of being able to have the discussion or the survey. So it's nothing that has to be the quiz-based. Maybe it's something where it's more, they can choose which answers. They don't have to have a specific correct one, but they can choose which one they agree with. So here you can see that it all depends on the purpose that you're designing it. A lot of the time we see with the Kahoot that people want to come in and use it as a quiz and a game-based tool. It's important to remember that you can see over here I have 2 web pages open. One is showing the teacher account. So here you see that I have, it gives me the opportunity to create, and I can also see when I open up this little piece here that I have my Kahoot. So if I want to go into my library and go through the ones and launch those games that I've designed or duplicated, I can go in there. But I can also go into public Kahoots, and you can see that there are a lot of them. So I know that if you just, depending on your subject, go in, type in a concept, you're most likely going to be able to find something. There are tons that are already designed. My suggestion for this, though, is if you do go in and use a public Kahoot, to make sure to go over each question and that it's relevant to what you're doing in class and that it's appropriate. Sometimes you're not always sure what other people are doing or posting out there, so just really making sure that it relates to what you're doing. And you can go in, you can edit it, you can delete questions, you can add questions once you duplicate it, so you can really make it your own if you want to go in and design with somebody else's that they've already started, just to get you going. It's a really good idea and something that can be used. Another great thing about this piece is that when you do have the students do the Kahoot and it's in your account, the data from the quizzes can be downloaded by the teachers and viewed in Excel. So with class, question, and individual information, the reports can provide helpful figures and understanding. One of the good things is that it can help you kind of see or find the students' growth patterns or individual problem areas. It's not something that you could probably do that's over a unit that you're containing a lot of information, but in the moment, it can give you an overall picture of their understanding. One of the great things about this is a lot of people use this for either the diagnostic or formative assessment. So they're looking at it as a minds-on. They're coming in using this game-based tool in order to kind of see what they already know, or they're using it as a review. So to see what they learned throughout. So whether it's just the review of a unit or review of the course overall, it's something that can be used for that purpose as well. Some of it just may be in the moment as well. So it's all on the design and the reason. So we're going to go in and kind of get a sense of what that looks like. I want you to think of when we are doing Kahoots that it doesn't need to be individual students. So when they do come in with a pin, they can come in as a group or they can come in as an individual. It all depends on what you're looking for. So we're going to go in and we're going to play one. So when I play it and I launch it, I can see that I can choose. I have certain things I can choose from, whether or not I want to display the pin throughout, and whether or not I want to minimize instructions, randomize questions, whatever it may be, or play music while waiting, yes, no. So that can be turned off as well. And you might see why once I play it, your choice of whether you want it to be on. So the teacher launches it, and you wait for the pin. So you can hear that coming a little bit. I'm going to turn that down so you can still hear me. But you can hear there's a little bit of music in the background, and that would go on throughout it all. So the students take the pin, and enter it in. And they put in a name, whether, depending on what you're collecting the data for, it can just be a nickname. Maybe it's something that you don't want to. It's just assessment in the moment in class, immediate feedback, and not something that you're collecting later on. You don't need to know the student's name then. You would just want to understand what the students are understanding as a whole in the class. If you want to understand what level each student is at, you might ask them to put in their first name. So they put OK, go. And you're going to see the students come up on the board and how many players are in. When you're ready and all players are in, you press start. And you can see that, so this is the main screen. This is the one that's up on the whiteboard or the projection screen. And you can see that it asks the question and it gives them a certain amount of time. So they have to read it, and then they have to answer it, and all the answers come in. So how many students have answered come in over here. They don't have the answers, so they have to figure out when looking up at the screen what color it goes to and then click on it. So they got it correct. It gives them a certain level of points. The faster they answer, the more points they get. So it's not only about being the correct answer, but it's also about how fast you can answer it in this format when you're doing the quiz. You can see that it also tells you which one was correct, and it stops. So if you do want to have a discussion about what they thought, it will tell you how many of each answer was given, and then you can stop and have a discussion based on it. So I think that that's another valid teaching point when working on assessment and understanding overall understanding what's happening within the student's thoughts, that you can go on and have the discussion from their answers. So just a quick, it's kind of hard to see because I'm the only one in, but what happens when you go next is that it gives a scoreboard and it gives it ranks the top 5 and where they're at. So that kind of makes it like competitive in some way. I'm going to go back actually at this point, and I'm just going to come out. So I'm going to leave the page, and that controls it. So once the teacher comes out of it, the students come out of it. And if we go into, and I just want to go and edit, and just give you a quick view of what that looks like. So I can see that when I'm editing or creating, I can ask my question in here. I can choose to embed an image with the question, or I can choose to embed a video. So depending on what you're doing, you might need or want a quick little clip. So before they have to answer, they have to watch a video or a screencast of a problem, and then have to answer what the answer is to that. So it all depends on your design and what you're comfortable with, but there's a lot of options when it comes to this. At the bottom of it is a multiple choice, so they're answering here, multiple choice. You can choose to have just 2 or up to 4 answers. And when you are choosing which one is correct, you just kind of click on it, and that will recognize that that's the correct one when the students are coming and answering. You can see that I can have more than one correct and split up points if one is more correct than the other. So it all depends on your level of design and what you're interested in doing. Okay, whoop, I came out of this here. All right, so just a quick review of what you just saw. So when you're looking at your development, I want you to think of the idea that it is as simple as if you just want to add the question at the top and add a few answers in, you can just leave it like that. But you can also enhance the quiz by embedding pictures or embedding videos. And the videos, they can be embedded from YouTube, and you can decide at what point you want the video to start and end. So there is some leeway with working around and being able to customize it to what you want it to be. And if you don't feel comfortable, remember, there's also the public Kahoots, and you can see that at the top. You can go and just use what's already there. So go and explore and see what Kahoot has to offer you in the course that you're working with. So you can then, if you want to start with something simple and you have some course content, one place that teachers start at is with creating flashcards or timed quizzes for review. So this can either be done on the individual devices or with the group. So you can make it a little less competitive when you are having students work together, so they don't feel the anxiousness sometimes that the competition does arise at time in classes. We're going to go into Office a little bit, and I want you to be thinking of the idea of descriptive feedback. Within Office, it provides you the ability to offer students clear and descriptive feedback on what they're doing. You're able to offer them the opportunity to analyze what they've done and which parts they need to improve. So teachers will go into this platform and be able to outline steps to help students learn how to improve their work. And this step really should happen before that final product comes in. So remember, there should be a time and place where you are offering that for them, where they're going, how they're going to get there, and how they can close that gap from if they are really struggling to reach that potential. How can they close it? What can they do to move themselves up and onward? When we're using tech tools, we want to understand, why do we use them to provide feedback? How could this help the students in any which way? And it really does help and allow teachers to provide meaningful feedback. They can save time when recording the feedback, or they're allowed to offer it in a more timely and efficient manner where students can receive the feedback whether or not they're in class or present that day. So one advantage of using technology is providing a variety of types of feedback. Within some platforms, you're able to provide audio and visual feedback as well as the traditional written format. So if you're comfortable with that, you can still stay there, but it just offers you a little bit leeway as to how you are giving them the feedback. As I said previously, it's timely. So it's possible to send feedback to students the instant you have completed it, no matter where the student is. When they're on the platform, whenever they sign in, they'll be able to see how they can improve and how they can reach the goals they're setting out with, because you're able to go in and give them some suggestions outside of the class time. And the opportunity for better feedback. So feedback can be more thorough and detailed. You are no longer confined to the blank spots on a student's piece of work. You can now really have, a bigger canvas in order to work with. And even with that idea of audio, at times you don't even need to offer that written, because they can just listen to what feedback you have to offer. So we're going to go into Office 365, and I'm just going to touch upon the Word Online and the PowerPoint Online. I'm going to stick with those and show you what those look like. So here, we'll go back to OneDrive in a minute, but I just want to go into these two apps right now. So the Word Web app, and I'll show you, but when students share their assignment with you, you can add comments, feedback, or edit the document directly to make changes. As well as in PowerPoint, you can see here that the students are able to add in their content, their graphics, everything, and then teachers can go in and be able to provide their suggestions based on the graphic work, on the mind maps, on the infographics, and you can see that there's a little speech bubble. I'm going to come out and come into Office and show you what that looks like. So in Word, when we open it up, I can go into a document that's already created. You can see here that I don't necessarily, as a teacher, if I'm collaborating directly with my student and giving some feedback, or a peer is coming in to give some feedback, they don't have to necessarily edit it. If they want to go in and provide different colors and editing, they can. But what they can also do without opening the document, they can provide comments. So you see these little speech bubbles that are here. If I click on this, it's going to highlight a word in here. The comments are going to come up. So what happens is that every time that I touch one of these speech bubbles, it highlights it, the word that, or the comment where I'm providing the feedback, and the comment is over here. So in fact, it doesn't really touch that student's piece of work, but offers that, formative piece along the way. So it offers that idea that you can describe how they can improve or what they're doing well, and really give them that sense of if they're reaching their goals and they're beginning to accomplish what they need to within your course. It's the same within PowerPoint. So if you're looking at images themselves, if you click on this little icon, you can add it. So all I'm doing is highlighting a word. Well, let's go to somewhere that's not highlighted. And I'm right-clicking, and this little box is coming up. So I can see here that I can then press comment, and then it will allow me then to post something based on this part of the assignment. If it's simpler, that idea of how do we share, it's the same idea here. So if you're unsure how to do that, within this section here, the student then has the opportunity to share with you or share with a group. And you can see that names come up. So I'm just pressing in the last name, and then I can then share that within here. So this is a good place to actually provide the collaboration and feedback. So you see when we were working with the idea of Kahoot and Nearpod, that's more of it's providing the immediate feedback, probably driving the instruction in the lessons. Here itself is a place where you can provide the descriptive feedback to the students. So working within PowerPoint and the Word Web app, you can create shared folders within your OneDrive. Within here, the students can then drop in their Word files, their PowerPoint files, and you can go in, whether or not you have a shared folder for an assignment or a folder for your students. You can decide how you set that up for each student. But you can go in and then find them and provide the feedback that you need to, and they can just share it within that folder, and you know where to go. So if you're working within a course, you can organize it that way within OneDrive. If you are on another system, if D2L is another online virtual learning environment, so if you're more comfortable with this, I know there is some people are within Office, and if you're already within D2L, I want you to know that there are also ways that you can provide student feedback. So within here, there's the idea of providing feedback within the quizzes, or when they're submitting to the Dropbox, or even within the discussion forum. It provides you that ability to talk to the students along the way and really help them understand what's going on and lead their learning. So you want to really lead them to that final product. So how are you getting there, and what tools are you using to lead them there? Right here, you see the function of, I see a question within here, and you see the feedback box. Within here, it can be something that's generated feedback that comes in, but really what you want to do with descriptive feedback is sometimes, teachers really go in and they individualize the feedback on responses, and they can contain suggestions about how they can improve. So depending on what they answer, they can go in and then give that suggestion of what that looks like. And once quizzes have been submitted, teachers can review student responses, add feedback for the students, or change the automatic feedback that was created during the quiz setup. And this allows teachers to personalize, that discussion and that learning of where each student may be at. So as we're wrapping up here, I think that as we look back to some of the tools that we examined today, we're looking at the idea of working within Nearpod and creating interactive activities where we can have students kind of provide some of their voice, but actually take ownership to their learning during it, and really getting the sense of what the students are thinking. When we're working within the idea of Kahoot, the assessment there is right in the time. It's immediate. The students are understanding and able to have discussions about what they're thinking, and it can really, as a teacher, drive your own instruction to where you're going next. And finally, with the idea of Office 365, it's really looking at that idea of how can we provide our students within this space some descriptive feedback? How can we help them along their journey, and how can we help them reach their full potential as they work towards meeting the goals for our course? So I'm going to come back to you now. So hopefully today you were able to find a few strategies that may help build that idea of assessment within your classroom. My suggestion is to start with one of the tools and see how it works, and try to build it into that idea of how you are building your lessons and providing that feedback to your students. Remember that we are here, so if you have questions, we come in on Tech Tuesdays, examining small parts of our Digital Thursdays. You can continue to ask questions during that time, and just come back in. If you have questions, we're here to answer them and help you along the way. Hopefully, you know that you can go back to our YouTube channel on the DPCDSB chats. If you want to review what we learned today, you're more than welcome to go back and take a look and help guide you as you're driving your instruction and planning your lessons. So thanks for joining us today, and hopefully we'll see you next month and within our Tech Tuesdays. Have a great day.